A billionaire thought he had everything until a simple hug from a stranger showed him what he had been missing most: his daughter's heart. The morning sun was just beginning to stretch its golden fingers across the city when the billionaire, James Hartwell, stepped out of his sleek black car. He always had a car waiting for him wherever he went. Today was different, though. Today he wasn't rushing to a board meeting or a private jet. Today he was taking his daughter Lily out for breakfast. It wasn't something he did often. Life had a way of keeping him busy: meetings, conferences, phone calls, and endless negotiations. But today he had cleared his schedule, determined to spend some real time with Lily. Lily, a small, bright-eyed girl of 7, skipped beside him as they walked into a small diner tucked between towering office buildings. She wore a pink coat and her favorite yellow scarf, the one that had tiny embroidered flowers on it. She had insisted on wearing it, even though her father had suggested a warmer jacket. "I like this one, Daddy," she said, tugging on his hand with a small smile. "It makes me happy." James smiled down at her, feeling a warmth that money could never buy. He had everything he wanted in life: a sprawling mansion, luxury cars, a private jet that could take him anywhere in the world. Yet standing there in the quiet morning with Lily by his side, he realized that the small, simple moments were the ones that mattered the most. Moments like this, moments he had missed so often, were priceless. The diner smelled of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon. The low hum of conversation and the clinking of dishes filled the air. It was nothing like the marble halls and expensive restaurants James usually frequented, but that was precisely why he had chosen it. He wanted Lily to feel comfortable, to enjoy the normalcy of a place where nobody knew who they were. Lily's eyes widened as she looked around. "Daddy, look! They have pancakes with strawberries," she exclaimed. Her excitement was pure and infectious, and for a brief moment, James forgot about the endless meetings he had left behind. He watched her bounce in place, her small hand still gripping his, and felt a pang of guilt. He hadn't spent enough time with her, and seeing her like this, so full of simple joy, made him realize just how much he had missed. They found a booth by the window, and Lily hopped onto the seat with a little thump. She immediately began scanning the menu with wide eyes. James smiled, letting her choose. She settled on a stack of strawberry pancakes with whipped cream, and he ordered a simple omelet. The waitress approached, a warm woman with a kind smile, and took their order. Lily waved at her shyly, and James noticed the gentle way the woman interacted with his daughter. There was a softness in her tone, a genuine kindness that he hadn't seen much in his own world of business and wealth, as they waited for their food. Lily's small fingers drummed on the table. She looked out the window at the bustling street, watching people hurry past, some with coffee cups in hand, others talking on their phones. She turned to her father, her expression suddenly a little serious. "Daddy," she said quietly, "can I ask you something?" James leaned closer, smiling. "Of course, sweetheart, anything." Lily hesitated for a moment, her small brow furrowed. Can I have a hug?" she asked softly. "I miss Mommy." James felt a sharp ache in his chest. He had always known that Lily missed her mother, who wasn't around much, but hearing her say it out loud made it real in a way that words on a paper never could. He opened his mouth to respond, but the words seemed to stick. He didn't know what to say that could make it better. He could give her everything she could ever want materially, but this was different. She needed comfort, love, and warmth that money could never buy. Before he could react, the waitress, who had been standing nearby, gently knelt down to Lily's level. "Of course, sweetie," she said warmly. "Come here." Lily ran into her arms, and the waitress hugged her tightly. It was a simple gesture, but the way she held Lily made James's heart twist. He watched in silence, unable to look away. The hug was filled with care, understanding, and comfort, everything he had wanted to give his daughter but often didn't. Lily hugged the waitress back, burying her small face in the woman's shoulder. "I miss Mommy," she whispered again, and James felt something shift inside him. The small diner, the clatter of dishes, the hum of voices, they all faded away. All he could see was his little girl, needing someone to hold her, and realizing that sometimes even strangers could provide that comfort in ways he hadn't. He cleared his throat and forced himself to speak. "Lily," he said softly, "I'm here. I'm always here for you." She looked up at him with her big, innocent eyes, still a little wet from unshed tears. "But I miss Mommy," she said again, her voice trembling. James swallowed hard. He wanted to say something that would fix everything, but he realized there were no perfect words. Instead, he reached across the table and took her small hand in his. It was a simple gesture, but it carried all the love he felt for her. He had been so focused on his work, on building his empire, that he had almost forgotten what mattered most. This moment reminded him. The food arrived, and Lily's eyes lit up again as she saw the pancakes stacked high with strawberries and cream. For a moment, the sadness faded, replaced by pure joy. She dug in eagerly, and James watched her, smiling quietly to himself. He realized that these small moments, breakfasts in ordinary diners, soft hugs from caring strangers, quiet conversations, were the memories that would last forever as they ate. James found himself talking to Lily about simple things. Her favorite cartoons, the little stories she'd like to tell. He noticed how much she had grown, how much she was learning, and how precious every word, every laugh, every glance was. He felt a mixture of pride and sorrow. Pride for the wonderful little person she was becoming, and sorrow for all the moments he had missed because of his relentless work schedule. The morning passed slowly, filled with laughter, small talks, and quiet reflections. James felt something inside him change. He realized that no amount of money could replace these moments of connection. He saw his daughter's happiness, her trust, and her innocence. And he knew he wanted to be a better father, not just a wealthy one, but one who was truly present in her life. As they left the diner, Lily skipped ahead a little, her pink coat and yellow scarf fluttering in the morning light. James watched her, a small smile on his lips. He had a lot to think about, a lot to change, but for now, he focused on the simple joy of holding her hand and walking beside her. Today had been a small step, but a meaningful one. He promised himself silently that he would do better, that he would be there for her, not just in grand gestures, but in small, everyday moments like this. The diner was quiet, except for the soft clatter of plates and the low murmur of other customers. Lily had just finished her pancakes, her small hands sticky with syrup, and James watched her with a mixture of pride and concern. She seemed happy, yet her earlier words lingered in his mind. "I miss Mommy." He knew this was more than a passing thought for her. It was a small ache in her heart that no amount of toys or treats could fix. As Lily finished her breakfast, she looked around the diner with wide, curious eyes. There was a warmth to the place that felt different from the cold, polished environment she was used to when she accompanied her father to business lunches. The waitress, a woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice, leaned down to Lily once more. "Are you ready for a little surprise, sweetie?" she asked. Lily's eyes lit up, and she nodded eagerly. The waitress reached out her arms and gave Lily another soft hug. Lily buried her face in the woman's shoulder, whispering again, "I miss Mommy." James felt a lump in his throat. Watching his daughter seek comfort from a stranger stirred something deep inside him, something he had been ignoring for years, the realization that his absence, though unintentional, left a gap in her life that couldn't be filled with gifts or grand gestures. James cleared his throat and spoke gently. "Lily, I know you miss Mommy. I do too, and I'm sorry I'm not always there when you need me." Lily looked up at him, her big brown eyes shimmering with unshed tears. She didn't fully understand what he meant, but she sensed his sincerity. She gave him a small, hesitant smile, and he felt a wave of relief mixed with guilt. The waitress smiled at the interaction, warmth making the moment even more tender. "She's very brave," she said softly. Addressing James, "It's not easy for a little girl to talk about missing someone she loves." James nodded, unable to find the right words. He wasn't used to these kinds of conversations. In his world, problems were solved with money, contracts, or influence. But this was different. This required patience, attention, and presence, the things he had often neglected. Lily, sensing the shift in the mood, grabbed her father's hand. "Daddy," she said quietly, "can we come here again?" Her voice was small, almost shy, but full of hope. James looked down at her and smiled, feeling a warmth that no deal or contract had ever given him. "Of course, sweetheart," he replied. "We can come here any time you want." The waitress, noticing the bond forming between them, stepped back with a gentle smile. She didn't interfere, but her kindness had created a safe space for Lily to express her feelings. James watched as his daughter began to play with her napkin, folding it into little shapes, her small fingers nimble and precise. He realized that these little moments, the small smiles, the quiet conversations, the soft touches, were what truly mattered. As they sat there, a thought crossed James's mind. He had been so focused on building his empire, on achieving success, that he had forgotten the simple joys of everyday life. Lily's laughter, her curiosity, her trust, these were treasures far more valuable than any sum of money he had earned. He wanted to be the kind of father who was present, who listened, who comforted, and who loved unconditionally. Lily suddenly looked up at the waitress again. "Can I ask you something?" she said softly. The woman knelt to her level, her eyes kind and patient. "Of course, sweetie. Anything you want," she replied. Lily hesitated for a moment, then whispered, "Can you be my friend?" The waitress's eyes softened. "I would love to be your friend," she said, giving her another gentle hug. Lily smiled, and James felt a tug at his heart. This simple interaction, so full of genuine care, reminded him of what he had been missing in his own relationship with his daughter. James reached across the table and held Lily's hand. "I want to be your friend too, Lily," he said quietly. "I may be busy sometimes, but I will always love you and be here for you." Lily's eyes lit up and she leaned against him slightly. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to him. For the first time in a long while, he felt that he was connecting with her in a real and meaningful way. The waitress excused herself to attend to other customers, leaving James and Lily alone for a moment. James looked at his daughter and realized that this was a turning point. He couldn't change the past, and he couldn't make up for all the times he had been absent. But he could be here now, in this moment, and he could promise to be better in the future. Lily, sensing her father's sincerity, began to talk about school, her favorite stories, and the little adventures she imagined in her daydreams. James listened intently, asking questions and laughing at her stories. He noticed how much she had grown, how independent she was becoming, and how precious every word she spoke was. He felt a mixture of pride and sadness, pride for the wonderful little person she was becoming, and sadness for the moments he had missed. The diner grew busier as the morning wore on. Families arrived, chatting and laughing, and the aroma of coffee and freshly baked goods filled the air. Lily looked around, her eyes wide with curiosity, taking in every detail. She reached for her father's hand again, and he held it firmly, feeling the weight of responsibility and love. He realized that these small, ordinary moments were what would shape her memories and her sense of security. After finishing their meal, Lily asked for a glass of juice. James nodded, and the waitress brought it over with a smile. Lily sipped it slowly, looking thoughtful. "Daddy," she said, "can we come back tomorrow?" James chuckled softly. "We can come back as many times as you like." "Lily, I want to be here with you." Her face lit up with a genuine, carefree smile, and James felt a deep sense of fulfillment. As they left the diner, James held Lily's hand tightly. He felt the morning sunlight on his face and noticed how her yellow scarf fluttered in the breeze. She skipped a little ahead, then turned back to look at him, her eyes sparkling. He realized that this small outing, this simple breakfast, had become more important than any boardroom meeting or business deal. It was a reminder that love and presence mattered more than wealth or power. Walking back to the car, James silently promised himself that he would never take these moments for granted again. He would listen more, hug more, and be truly present for Lily. He understood that life was fleeting, and the moments he spent with her now would be the memories she cherished forever. And for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of peace and purpose that no amount of money could ever provide. The drive back from the diner was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of the car engine. Lily sat in her car seat, gazing out the window, her small hands pressed lightly against the glass. James glanced at her from the driver's seat, his mind still spinning from what had happened at the diner. Her words, her vulnerability, and the way she had clung to the waitress for comfort kept replaying in his head. He felt a mix of guilt, love, and a sudden clarity about the kind of father he wanted to be. When they reached the mansion, James carried Lily inside, making sure to keep her close. The house was silent except for the faint ticking of an expensive clock in the hallway. It was luxurious, filled with expensive furniture and priceless artwork, yet it felt empty without the warmth of laughter and life. James realized that wealth had filled many spaces, but it could never replace the simple joys of family. Lily wandered into the living room, her small steps echoing lightly against the marble floors. She paused in front of a family photo, one that included her mother, a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. James watched her, noticing how she studied the photo with a mixture of curiosity and longing. He knew that her mother's absence had left a gap, a quiet emptiness in her life that he couldn't fill with money or toys. He wanted to comfort her, but he wasn't always sure how. "Do you want to tell me about your mom?" he asked gently, sitting on the edge of the couch. Lily hesitated, fidgeting with her fingers, then nodded slowly. I don't remember her much," she said softly. "I just know I miss her. Sometimes I feel like I'm supposed to remember more, but I can't." Her words struck James harder than any business failure ever could. She wasn't asking for gifts or attention. She was asking for understanding. For a presence that he hadn't always given, James swallowed the lump in his throat and reached for her small hand. "It's okay, sweetheart," he said quietly. "Even if you don't remember everything, it's okay to miss her. And I promise you, I'll always be here to help you feel safe and loved." Lily looked up at him, her eyes shimmering. For a moment, she seemed uncertain, then slowly leaned against his shoulder. James held her close, feeling the weight of responsibility and the depth of his love. They sat together in silence for a while, the quiet only broken by the occasional bird outside the window. James thought about the waitress again, the way she had hugged Lily without hesitation. That simple act of kindness had opened his daughter's heart in a way he hadn't managed in months, maybe years. He realized that sometimes the people we meet in life, even strangers, can teach us lessons about love, care, and connection that money or power cannot provide. Lily finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Daddy, do you think Mommy misses me too?" James hesitated. It was a question he had hoped she wouldn't ask so soon, one that forced him to confront the complicated truth about their family. I think she does," he said carefully. "Even if she's not here right now, I believe she loves you very much." Lily nodded slowly, her small fingers gripping his hand tightly. James could feel her longing, her quiet need for a mother's touch, and he knew he couldn't provide that entirely. But he could be there to support her, to distract her and bring some light into the moment. James suggested they look at old pictures of her mother. They went to a drawer where he kept a small photo album. It's filled with snapshots of happier times, birthday parties, family trips, and quiet moments at home. Lily flipped through the pages carefully, stopping at each photo to ask questions about the people and places in the pictures. James answered patiently, telling her little stories, hoping to preserve the memory of her mother in a way that felt comforting rather than painful. As they looked through the photos, James noticed a shift in Lily's mood. She smiled at a picture of her mother holding her as a baby, and he could see the warmth returning to her eyes. "I wish I could remember her better," she whispered. James nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "You remember her in your own way, Lily," he said softly. "And it's okay if you don't remember everything. What matters is that you feel her love in your heart." The afternoon passed slowly, filled with quiet talks, laughter, and small moments of connection. James realized how much he had underestimated the power of presence. He had always thought that providing for Lily meant giving her the best schools, the most toys, and a life of comfort. But he now understood that what she needed most was time, attention, and love, the kind of love that couldn't be bought. Lily eventually asked if they could play a game together. James agreed, and they spent the next hour building a small castle out of blocks. Lily's laughter filled the room, echoing off the high ceilings, and James felt a joy he hadn't experienced in years. He watched her concentrate, her small hands carefully placing each block, and he realized that these moments of connection were more valuable than any deal or contract he had ever signed. After the game, Lily curled up on the couch, resting her head on James's lap. He stroked her hair gently, feeling the softness and warmth of her presence. "Daddy," she said softly, "I feel better when I'm with you." James's heart swelled with emotion. He had always been successful in his career, but he now saw that true success was measured not in wealth or power, but in love and connection. As the evening approached, James decided to take Lily out for a short walk in the garden. The mansion had a large, well-manicured yard filled with flowers, trees, and a small fountain. Lily ran ahead, her laughter carrying in the evening air. James followed slowly, savoring the sight of her happiness. He realized that moments like these, simple, ordinary, yet filled with love, were what truly mattered in life. They sat on a bench near the fountain, watching the water ripple in the soft light of the setting sun. Lily leaned against him again, her small hand in his. "Daddy," she whispered, "thank you for being here." James kissed the top of her head and smiled. "Always, Lily. Always," he replied, in that quiet moment. James made a promise to himself. He would never let work, money, or the pressures of life take away these precious moments with his daughter. He understood now that true happiness and fulfillment came not from wealth or power, but from love, presence, and the small acts of kindness that build lasting bonds. As they returned inside, James felt a sense of determination he hadn't felt before. He would be there for Lily not just today, but every day he could. He would listen to her, comfort her, and share her joys and sorrows. He knew it wouldn't always be easy, and he couldn't undo the past, but he could shape the future. And in that future, Lily would always know that she was loved, cherished, and never alone. The next morning, James woke early, as he always did, but today he didn't feel the usual rush of work pressing on him. Instead, he felt a quiet determination. The previous day had changed something in him. Seeing Lily's innocence, her small acts of trust, and the way she sought comfort from others had opened his eyes. He knew he needed to do more than just be physically present. He needed to connect with her emotionally in a way he never had before. Lily, already awake, came running down the hallway in her pajamas, her hair a little messy, but her eyes bright with excitement. "Daddy," she called, throwing her arms around him. James hugged her tightly, feeling her small body press against his. "Good morning, my little sunshine," he said, smiling. "Did you sleep well?" Lily nodded, burying her face in his chest for a moment before stepping back and looking up at him. "Can we do something special today?" she asked, her voice hopeful. James thought for a moment. He had a list of urgent meetings, phone calls, and emails to attend to, but all of that felt less important now. He shook his head gently. "No, sweetheart. Today is just for us. Let's spend the whole day together." Her face lit up, and she clapped her hands with joy. They decided to go to a nearby park, a place where Lily loved to run and play. The sun was shining, and the air was crisp with the freshness of early autumn. James walked beside her, holding her hand loosely as she ran ahead to explore. He watched her, noticing the way her hair bounced, how her eyes sparkled with curiosity, and how her small steps carried her over the grass with carefree energy. He realized that he had missed so many of these moments before, moments that no amount of money could ever replace. As they reached a quiet corner of the park, Lily suddenly stopped and looked at James with a serious expression. "Daddy," she said softly, "can I ask you something about Mommy?" James felt his heart tighten. He knew this conversation would be delicate. He knelt down to her level, trying to meet her gaze evenly. "Of course, Lily, you can ask me anything." "Why didn't Mommy stay with us?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. James felt a sharp pang of guilt. He had avoided this conversation for years, hoping that the absence of her mother wouldn't hurt too much. But now, looking into her innocent eyes, he realized that she needed honesty, patience, and reassurance. "Lily," he began gently, "sometimes adults make choices that are hard to understand. Mommy had reasons for leaving, but that doesn't mean she didn't love you. She loved you very much, and that will never change. Lily frowned, her small brows knitting together. But I don't remember her. I want to remember her. I want to hug her. James's throat tightened. He wanted to tell her that everything would be okay, but he knew words alone wouldn't heal the longing she felt. He took a deep breath and pulled her close, holding her in his arms. I know, sweetheart. I know it's hard. I wish she could be here too. But I promise you, I will always be here for you. I will hug you, love you, and help you feel safe whenever you miss her. They sat on a nearby bench, James holding Lily close. She rested her head against his shoulder, her small hands gripping his jacket. The park was filled with the sound of children playing and birds chirping. But for a while, all that mattered was the quiet connection between father and daughter. James realized that this was a turning point. He couldn't change the past, but he could shape the future. And he wanted to be the father she needed, not just the one who provided for her materially. After a few minutes, Lily spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. Daddy, can we visit the diner again? The one where the nice lady hugged me. James smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. Of course, Lily, we can go there anytime you want. I think it's important for you to feel comforted and happy, and if that diner makes you feel that way, then we'll go. They returned to the diner later in the morning. Lily ran ahead, waving at the waitress, who greeted her with the same warmth as before. James followed slowly, watching the small interactions. When the waitress knelt down and hugged Lily, James felt something stir deep inside him. It wasn't just gratitude toward her kindness. It was a realization that love and connection could come from many sources, but the most important was his own. He needed to be the one to offer that kind of comfort consistently. Sitting together at a booth, Lily looked up at James with wide eyes. Daddy, she said softly, thank you for being here. You make me happy. James felt a lump in his throat. He had worked so hard, built an empire, and achieved so much, but none of that compared to the small joy in his daughter's words. I'm glad, Lily, he replied gently. I want to always make you happy, and I promise to be here for you every day I can. As they talked, Lily mentioned memories of her mother that were fuzzy and unclear. She asked questions, sometimes repeatedly, trying to understand why her mother wasn't around. James answered each question with patience, careful not to lie, but also not to overwhelm her with details that she wasn't ready to hear. The conversation was emotional, sometimes tearful, but it was honest. James realized that these moments were shaping Lily's understanding of love, trust, and family. At one point, Lily leaned into the waitress for another hug, and James watched silently. He felt a strange mixture of gratitude and self-reflection. He understood that while others could provide temporary comfort, the real responsibility was his. He needed to learn to give his daughter the emotional support she required, to be fully present in her life. After their time at the diner, James suggested they take a walk around the nearby park again. The afternoon sun was warm on their faces, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of flowers and freshly cut grass. Lily ran ahead, picked flowers, and came back to show her father, each one with pride. James knelt to admire the flowers, but more than that, he admired Lily. He admired her resilience, her capacity to love, and her willingness to trust despite missing her mother. As they sat on a bench again, Lily rested her head on his shoulder. James stroked her hair gently, feeling the weight of responsibility and the depth of his love. Daddy, she whispered, I feel safe with you. James felt tears prick his eyes. All the money, the cars, the luxuries, none of that mattered in moments like this. What mattered was presence, love, the willingness to connect deeply with the people who depended on you the most. James realized that being a good father wasn't about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was about listening, comforting, hugging, and being consistently there for his daughter. He promised himself silently that he would never take these moments for granted again. He would not let work, wealth, or ambition come before the simple, precious acts of love that built a strong, lasting bond with Lily. By the time they returned to the mansion, the sun was beginning to set. Lily was tired, but happy, her cheeks flushed from running and playing. James carried her inside, feeling her small weight against him. He placed her on the couch and watched her curl up with a soft blanket, her eyes heavy with sleep. He realized that the day had been transformative, not just for Lily, but for him. He had learned the power of honesty, patience, and presence. He had begun to understand what it truly meant to be a father as he tucked her in and kissed her forehead. Lily murmured, "I love you, Daddy." James felt a warmth spread through him, a mixture of joy and resolve. "I love you too, Lily. Always," he whispered. That night, as he watched her sleep, he reflected on the events of the day. He knew that change would not come overnight, and that he would face challenges in balancing his demanding life with his commitment to her. But for the first time, he felt ready to try, to learn, to prioritize the emotional connection with his daughter above all else. The day had been a turning point. James understood now that wealth and power were meaningless without love and presence. He had seen the impact of small acts of kindness, the waitress's hug, his patient listening, and his willingness to be there for Lily. He knew that these moments would shape her understanding of love and security far more than any material possession ever could. As the mansion grew quiet, James sat alone for a moment, reflecting. He realized that being a father was not just about providing. It was about nurturing, guiding, and being a steady presence in his daughter's life. He promised himself that he would never let work or ambition steal these moments from him again. He would be present, patient, and loving, making every small moment count. The morning light filtered softly through the tall windows of the mansion, casting a warm glow across the living room. James sat at the edge of the sofa, sipping his coffee, but this morning felt different from any other. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel the weight of work pressing on him. Instead, there was a quiet sense of purpose. Yesterday had been a turning point. He had learned through moments both tender and honest that the most important thing in his life was being truly present for his daughter. Lily bounced into the room in her pajamas, her hair still slightly messy from sleep, but her eyes shining with energy and excitement. "Daddy," she called, throwing her arms around him. James hugged her tightly, feeling the warmth of her small body against his. "Good morning, my sunshine," he said softly. "Did you sleep well?" She nodded, hugging him again before stepping back and giving him a wide smile. "Can we go somewhere special today?" James thought for a moment. He could have scheduled meetings, calls, or errands, but he realized that those things were no longer the priority. "Yes, sweetheart," he said gently. "Today is just for us. We'll do whatever makes you happy." Lily's face lit up, and she clapped her hands with joy. That simple act, the joy in her eyes. The excitement in her voice was worth more to James than all the wealth he had amassed over the years. They decided to visit the diner again, the place where the waitress had hugged Lily and helped her feel safe. It was a short drive away, and the sun was shining warmly, giving the streets a golden hue. As they entered, the waitress immediately noticed Lily and knelt to her level with a warm smile. "There's my little friend," she said. Lily ran into her arms, hugging her tightly. James watched from the side, feeling a mixture of gratitude and a realization. It was moments like this, simple acts of kindness and love, that had the power to heal hearts. They sat at their usual booth, and Lily chatted excitedly about school, friends, and small adventures she had imagined. James listened, fully present, asking questions and laughing along with her stories. He realized how much he had missed by not paying attention to these details, by being too focused on work. Each smile, each small gesture of trust, reminded him that love and attention were far more valuable than any material possession. After breakfast, James suggested they take a walk in a nearby park. Lily ran ahead, collecting leaves, pointing out birds, and picking small flowers to show her father. James followed slowly, enjoying every detail. He noticed how her small hands held the flowers carefully, how she stopped to watch a butterfly land on a branch, and how her eyes sparkled with curiosity. These were moments he had missed in the past, and now he vowed never to let them slip away again as they walked. Lily turned to him with a serious expression. "Daddy," she said softly, "do you think Mommy would be proud of me?" James's chest tightened. He had anticipated this question eventually, and now he had to answer it with care. "I know she would, Lily," he said gently. Even if she isn't here with us, I believe she would be very proud of the person you are becoming. You are kind, brave, and full of love, and that is something anyone would be proud of." Lily's small hand gripped his, and she leaned into him as they continued walking. "I miss her sometimes," she whispered. James nodded, understanding completely. "I know, sweetheart. It's okay to miss her, but I promise I will always be here to make sure you feel safe and loved whenever you miss her." She smiled softly, and he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. For the first time, he understood that being a father wasn't about providing the best material things. It was about being present, nurturing, and loving unconditionally. When they returned to the diner later, the waitress greeted them warmly again. Lily ran into her arms, and James felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. He realized that kindness could come from many places, but as her father, his role was irreplaceable. He needed to offer not just physical presence, but emotional support, patience, and love. Sitting together, he watched Lily's laughter fill the air. Her small hands animated as she talked about her day and her little thoughts. James leaned closer to her. "Lily," he said softly, "I want you to know that I will always be here for you. I will listen to you, hug you, and love you every day. You can always count on me." Lily looked up at him with big eyes, a quiet smile spreading across her face. "I know, Daddy," she said. "I feel safe with you." That small sentence carried more weight than anything else he had ever heard. It was a confirmation that he was moving in the right direction, that his presence mattered more than wealth or success. They left the diner and walked in the nearby park again. The sunlight warm on their faces and the soft breeze carrying the scent of flowers and grass. Lily ran ahead, paused to pick more flowers, and then ran back to show her father each one. James knelt to admire them, but more than the flowers. He admired Lily's joy, her resilience, and her ability to trust and love despite the absence of her mother. He realized that these small moments, the laughter, the gentle touches, the shared stories, were the foundation of her happiness and his own transformation. As the afternoon turned into evening, Lily was tired but content, her cheeks flushed from running and playing. James carried her inside, feeling her small weight in his arms and the warmth of her trust. He placed her on the couch, watching her curl up with a soft blanket. Her breathing became slow and steady as she drifted towards sleep. And he realized that the day had been transformative, not just for Lily, but for himself as well. James sat beside her, stroking her hair gently, reflecting on everything that had happened. He understood now that being a good father wasn't about grand gestures, expensive gifts, or wealth. It was about listening, being present, and showing consistent love. He had learned the power of small acts: a hug, a kind word, patience, and attention. These were the things that shaped Lily's understanding of love and security, far more than anything money could buy. Later that evening, after Lily had fallen asleep, James stood by the window of the mansion, looking out at the city below. He reflected on the day, on the transformation he had felt inside, and on the promise he had made to himself. He knew there would be challenges: his work, his responsibilities, and the pressures of life, but he was determined to prioritize his daughter above all else. She was his most important connection, his greatest responsibility, and his source of true happiness. In the days that followed, James made changes to his life. He rearranged his schedule, ensuring that he had time each day to spend with Lily. He took her on small outings, played games with her, and listened to her stories, no matter how trivial they seemed. He realized that consistency mattered more than grand gestures. Every hug, every shared laugh, every moment of patience built a stronger bond between them. Lily noticed the change too. She smiled more, trusted more, and felt secure in ways she hadn't before. The bond between father and daughter deepened, strengthened by honest conversations, emotional support, and simple acts of love. The mansion, once quiet and empty, now echoed with laughter, stories, and joy. James understood that these moments, ordinary, quiet, yet filled with love, were far more valuable than any business success or luxury he had ever acquired. One afternoon, As they sat together in the living room, Lily held her father's hand. "Daddy," she said softly, "I'm happy now. I feel like you're always here with me." James smiled, feeling tears prick at his eyes. "I'll always be here, Lily," he whispered. Always. It was more than a promise. It was a commitment to be present, loving, patient, every single day of their lives together. The transformation was complete. James had learned that wealth, power, and success were meaningless without love and presence. True fulfillment came from small acts of care, honest conversations, and consistent attention. Lily had found comfort, security, and joy in her father's presence, and James had found a deeper sense of purpose and happiness than he had ever experienced before. That night, as he watched Lily sleep peacefully, James knew that life had given him a second chance. He had learned the importance of being present, of nurturing, and of cherishing the simple moments that truly mattered. And in that quiet moment, he whispered a promise to himself and to his daughter that he would always be there, that he would always love her, and that together they would face life with trust, joy, and unbreakable connection.